Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to The Art of Kindness, where we have compassionate conversations with artists from all areas of the entertainment industry who are using their voice to spread joy and make this big spinning planet in the universe a better place to be. I'm Robert Peterpaul, and I'm so glad you're here. Hello, friends. We are live from the Eureka Day opening nights at MTC on Broadway. Woo! Stick around as we chat with all the stars, VIP guests, woo, and talk about actively listening, decision-making, and of course, kindness. This is a live episode, so as you may or may not know, it'll likely get pretty unhinged. But I'm excited. Thank you for being here. And without further ado, please enjoy opening night of Eureka Day. We're a podcast network, so not everyone can see you and how dapper you look tonight.
They'll take your word for it.
Yeah, I look like a Muppet, in case anyone's wondering. So I would love if you could just start out by introducing yourself and saying why you're excited to open tonight, and then we could take it from there. Oh, we had a little error behind us, a little Eureka sign flowing down. Sorry, so whenever you're ready.
It's wild.
I have ADHD, I'm like, whoop.
I'm sorry, tell me your full name. First name.
Robert Peterpaul. Robert Francis Peterpaul.
Okay. I collect names, especially middle names.
Pietro it was Italian.
Well, Robert, great to meet you.
It's
Nice to be with you visually and orally on the podcast line. And we're ready to do Eureka Day, this play we've been working on for months now, to an opening night crowd. We'll see.
And can you just introduce yourself for listeners that can't see you and explain your role in the show to them?
I'm Bill Irwin. I've been an actor for a long, long time, and I play Don, the head of school at the Eureka Day progressive private school set in Berkeley, California. And I am employed by the school, but the rest of the characters are parents and members of the executive committee, and the drama ensues.
I can't wait to get into this. But first, I would love to know first, what were you like in elementary school? What do you remember from that time, or what have people told you about how you were? I know you're not playing a student, but just conjuring up that memory.
That is such a good question. It was a long, long time ago, Robert, because I was born in the 50s, and school then was a different proposition, because I have a 34-year-old son, so we've been through this as parents. But parenting, educating was just a really different proposition when I was growing up. And I'm not, vive la différence, I'm not voting for either, but it's just a very different cultural set of imperatives and responsibilities to educate and raise kids now. And that's what this play gets to so beautifully. The playwright is right over there.
Oh, hey!
Yeah, we've never seen him in a suit before, but he's...
So you're like, we've never seen him? I'm like, okay.
We've seen him. We've seen him. But he's never had a suit on quite this way. And yeah, it's a big deal opening night, and we're very thrilled to be offering it up to an opening night audience.
Well, I can't wait to see it. But from what I know about it, when I was thinking of how it relates to my podcast on the network, which is called The Art of Kindness, I think there's a lot of connections, and one I drew was actively listening, which I think is a lost art. What has this show taught you about listening that you can offer to listeners who are hopefully listening?
Who might be listening? Robert, that is a good and potent set of questions. Listening is like maybe the most primal and important human skill, and we're often not that good at it. The characters need to listen to each other, but in order to tell their story, we actors need to listen to each other. And it's full of challenges, this play. Like, it has so much laughter in places that you really have to negotiate your next line. So full of technical challenges, but the lifeline for us all is to listen to each other. I listen to Jessica Hecht.
And so funny, such a dream.
Such a genius.
Yeah.
And she will put me back on track.
Talk about listening and pausing. I saw her, she presented at the Artios Awards, and her comedic timing, I was like, someone put her in a comedy immediately, and here we are. But I love that answer. As we work down the line in this show, listening feeds into decision-making, And as an indecisive person, I would love to know, what's your advice for making decisions? Which can stem from this show or just in life.
Making decisions. I'm an old timer, Robert, but I'm here to tell you it doesn't get any easier. But I think listening is a huge key to figuring out, okay, how am I going to finally come down on this question, whatever the question is. It's just listen to each other, and then decision making. Yeah, that's sort of the marker into adulthood.
Okay.
From being a kid into being a responsible adult is how you make decisions.
I still feel like a kid at heart, but I'm thrust into decision making left and right.
If you run a podcast, you are indeed. So I salute you, and I wish you good luck.
Well, thank you. As we end our time here together, and I'm going to wish you to break a leg, not literally, but I would love if you could just share a tangible kindness tip. So something that you think listeners out there could do, listening is certainly one, to make the world a little bit brighter on their own corner in these very divisive times, which this show is a beautiful example of.
Well, I'll tell you something that I try to remind myself as I'm walking around New York, because this has been a challenging project. Get to work, get to rehearsal, get a sandwich, get to where it's ready to do preview number 1 or 2 or 3. And I try to just relax my face and let myself smile a little bit, because we, not without reason sometimes, we tend to walk around New York like this. And sometimes if that'll just open to a smile, sorry. Yeah. Bumping shoulders turns into actually a human salute sometimes. And that's the joy of living in this city.
I love it. It could be a little game with yourself. Who's going to smile back every day? How many are you going to get on the way to the theater? 5? 10? None today.
You could play it that way. You're right.
Well, thank you so much. I'm such a big fan. It was great to meet you.
Very good to meet you. Thank you so much, Robert.
Break a leg. Thank you.
Could happen. Thank you.
Okay. Stay safe.
I'm Jessica Hecht, and I'm play Suzanne in Eureka Day, and I'm very excited because the play is super topical, and I love my character. I think she's really she's flawed like any good character, but she loves quite many of the same things I love, namely children. She's sort of obsessed with children.
Well, looking at children, I know you're not playing a child in the show, but what were you like, or what have you heard you were like when you were in elementary school?
I was like a very good kid. I was a very, by that I mean I think I was a teacher's pet, probably an annoying kid to somebody who wasn't the teacher's pet, but I was a pretty easy little kid. I became difficult as a young teenager, and then all of that went by I went south as a teenager, but as a young kid, I was extremely close to my mom, and I just was so into being a little, not making any waves. Yeah.
I was the opposite. I was like a rambunctious, wild class clown, so that's going to be refreshing for my mom to listen to. Sorry, Mom. I haven't seen the show yet. I'm excited to see it tonight. And from what I know about it, what I could get my hands on, I find it's very perfect for the topic of kindness, because there's a whole through line of active listening or not listening.
Yeah.
What has this show taught you about listening as a skill?
That's really a great question too. The play is complex. The actual writing of the play is extremely it's extremely fractured. People have these short sentences that get cut off, and then somebody else pulls in, and then you kind of have to drive the car around to get back to your topic, and it requires a tremendous amount of focus, more so than a traditional play where you have a stream of stream of thought, and you're flowing, and then somebody else speaks after you. This play is much more like a collage, and so it requires tremendous listening, and it also, to make your argument, it requires a kind of concentration that I really mean this. I haven't experienced in many other plays. Yeah.
And then throw the audience laughter in there, and that's a whole other thing you got to listen to.
That is, and you have to just you have to kind of find a peace of mind with your point of view. Our perspectives are varied and kind of radical at times, and you have to really find a way to give people your opinion without offending them. Yeah.
Well, getting to that, listening and then trying not to offend, but also to hear the other person's point of view. What's your advice on decision making? Because the show is all about decisions, and as an indecisive, and in a world where I feel like maybe people are so decided that we can't meet in the middle, what are your thoughts on decisions? How do you make them?
Yeah, I have half the decisions I make, I think, are extremely clear to me, and I feel a sense of kind of intuitive purpose. It's like, that is why you're doing this work. Say if it was about acting, you're doing this work to accomplish these things. Does this job align with that? And I think there's a lot of stuff that I now am very clear on. And then there's stuff about family and life that's really difficult still at my late age.
Okay, no, that's refreshing to hear because
I think we follow our gut about half the time, and then half the time we're looking for a sign as to why we should or shouldn't do things. And I still tend to wait a while until I think, oh, okay, that makes sense. This is what I should or shouldn't do. Because I'm not somebody that has like a code of behavior that I'm not I don't think I think I have very loose boundaries. So a lot of stuff can kind of
it's hard.
Sit on my lap for a long time. And I'm thinking, okay, that maybe. So
But it's interesting because I feel very similarly in that, like, my professional life, I can make decisions like that. But then with my family, I'm very indecisive, and it's like in one regard, it's a safe space, and the other one maybe like you're hustling. I don't know if there's something to that, but
family, the nuances of really wanting to be having a certain level of wisdom, but also things are complicated because of how much you love your family. With my kids, how much I love them, and with other family members, how much I want them to be happy. It's all very, it's all historic.
It is. Historic's a good word. Well, as this show enters history tonight, interesting transition. I know I got to let you go. I would love if you could just end our time together by sharing a tangible kindness tip. So do you have something you would like listeners out there to do on their own corner of the world to try and make the world a little brighter right now?
Yeah. I would say look into people's eyes when you talk to them, and even if you can't fulfill their wish, at least try to make real human contact.
I love that. Well, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Nice to meet you. Congratulations. Have fun tonight.
My name is Jonathan Spector. I'm the playwright of Eureka Day, and I'm so thrilled to have this play opening on Broadway.
Congratulations. I gotta say, the cast is abuzz with you being in a suit. They're very excited that you're in a suit. How do you feel?
Yes, well, I typically am such a slovenly. I dress like a writer, usually. But I thought I should spruce it up tonight.
It's great. It looks great. So I know no one is playing this age in the show, but I would just love to know, what were you like in elementary school? Do you remember? Like, what did people tell you were like?
Oh, I don't know that people told me what I was like that much. So I don't know what the adults' perspective on me was. I mean, I don't know. We moved around a lot, so I went to several different elementary schools. So I feel like I was probably a little bit of a different person in each one, and maybe also that's what inclines one to being a writer, is you find yourself in sort of a new situation, and you're sort of doing a lot of observing of, how do things work here, and who is everybody, and trying to figure it out.
Well, I think the show is so perfectly timed. I can't wait to see it. One thing I think it relates to in regards to my podcast, which is The Art of Kindness, is the fact that active listening is a really important skill, and not listening can actually affect the world quite a bit. So I wonder, as you were writing this piece, did you think about listening a lot? What was your challenge with maybe cutting lines when you were deciding people were just listening, when they were interrupting? I know there's a lot of fasts back and forth.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of interrupting and there's a lot of listening. I mean, I think these are characters who are, careful with their language and try and be really thoughtful. And certainly in terms of the title of your podcast, I mean, something both in the writing of the play and something we talked about really actively, Anna and I, in the casting of the play, is that it would be important that these were all really kind people, and that we could feel that, so that so that it made it so much harder for them and for us when they come into conflict, which they don't want to be, but they're sort of forced into it by circumstance.
So when they are in that conflict, within the context of the show, it's because they're trying to make a decision. They all have different views. What has writing the show and now seeing it taught you about decision making? Because again, the show's very wonderfully timed, but I'm indecisive. I think sometimes in this world, people are maybe too decided and it divides. So what's your bird's eye view on that?
Yeah, well, actually, it may be coming out of this play. The next play I wrote was really about decision making. Sort of really, taking its initial inspiration from the work of Daniel Kahneman, who is this, I don't know, he just passed away, but he was like a Nobel Prize winning psychologist who kind of, he's sort of invented the whole field of decision science and how we make biases in our decision making. So what I think about decision making is we mostly are very bad at it, and mostly we make at least his. One of his theories, which I sort of believe, is that we have these two decision making systems in our brain. One which is basically pattern recognition, and we're making a lot of very quick decisions all the time to not get eaten by the tiger. But those decisions are often wrong because they're just they're very susceptible to biases of all kinds because they're just trying to keep us safe. And then we have the other kind that we think of as thinking, where you're really are wrestling with it and thinking it through, but that's really hard to do, and so we avoid doing it whenever possible. And mostly what we do is we've already made the decision with that instinctual decision-making system, and then we use the other, more thoughtful one to justify the decision we've already made. And that's why we're bad at decision-making as humans in general.
Yeah, that's interesting. A lot of people don't realize, and I actually barely realize it, I have not a lot of the facts, but there's multiple kinds of kindness in that regard too. There's cognitive empathy, and that's where it's someone's thinking about it, maybe it's more put on, and then there's innate empathy. So that, I guess in regards to kindness and everything we just talked about, what do you hope audience members take away from this experience?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel what people take away is whatever they take away. That's very it's hard for me to say because everybody comes into a play with different experiences. I think it is a portrait of people who are, fundamentally kind people and want to be generous with each other and then reach, situations in which that's really difficult to do, or in which they behave in ways in which, they don't want to be behaving. But it's not because they're, cynical, bad people. It's just because that's the circumstances the world has put them into, and even for all of us, even your best intentions of kindness or generosity are not always up to meeting certain challenges on its own,
And everyone has a different definition of that. So that's something we talk a lot about there. So you think you're being kind, but you might not be to the person as perceived. Well, I think this is such an amazing story from what I've read. I can't wait to see it. Congratulations, and I hope you have the best time tonight. Thank you. Nice to meet you. I love your outfit.
Thank you.
I want to write hello upside down. You know how you used to do that?
Yes, I do. Well, now, here I am.
Oh, yeah, this is a little social media
Now
video.
I have to steam my dress again.
Well, I got a steamer. No, I don't. I don't have a steamer. I got
There's
steam
a
in my
steamer
mind.
upstairs.
Yeah. Oh,
Well,
okay.
It's so hot down here. I'm just steaming constantly.
It is hot. I'm I should take this off because I'll feel better, but it's a mixed bag because then I'll look sweatier. Anyway, I'm Robert. It's nice to see you.
Robert.
Yeah, we met so long ago in the madness of the Bad Cinderella opening.
Oh my God.
It was, I don't even expect you to remember because I was blacked out too. But congratulations. Since we're a podcast, if you could just start out by introducing yourself.
My name is Amber Gray. I play Karina in Eureka Day, and I'm excited to be here because in my professional career in the last 15 years, I've never been in a realistic play. I've been in some melodramas and some Shakespeare's, and I sort of have become known as a musical theater gal.
Because you're iconic.
Thank you, honey. But I'm happy to just go back to my roots and be in a play. It's really cool.
I love that it rhymes too. You're Amber Gray and you were in Eureka Day. And that's a wrap. Nice to see you.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I'm so excited to see the show. From what I know about it, the first question I've been asking people is, what do you either remember or has been told to you about how you were in elementary school? What was your elementary school vibe? I know you're not playing that in the show, but
Yeah. No, I love it. I'm an Army brat. My mom, my dad, and my stepmom were all in the Army, and between the two households, I moved quite a bit. So I was always switching schools. I was painfully shy. Amber Gray was pretty much mute as an elementary school child, and my white mother would brush my mixed biracial hair, so it was very frizzy. She'd put it in ponytails and put little barrettes at the bottom, so they looked like big balloons, and my nickname was Titty Head, which was deeply painful.
sorry. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. You asked.
Thanks for being honest.
It's why I went into theater, because the theater kids are nice.
Yeah. Well, most of the time. Well, in that nice zone, you know, this show deals with some niceness, some not niceness, but it comes from like sort of a foundation of kindness, which I love. My show is The Art of Kindness, as you may have seen on the floor there. And so when I was linking like sort of what I know about this show, I still haven't seen it, and I'm excited to, and kindness, I thought, well, active listening must be a huge through line. So what has this show kind of taught you about listening as a person?
I mean, I've taken a lot of nonviolent communication classes and like landmark forum classes. We like to call them land Martians when they've taken all of the courses there. So I know that world pretty well. Sometimes I have an eye roll for it. I'm like, just speak with me off the cuff, and if you offend me, you can apologize after, you know? But this play is a wonderful reminder. I'm like, oh yeah, yes, active listening is... I have found in the last month my communication with my partner is healthier. I'm being a little more direct, less passive-aggressive about some things, and just like really saying what I need. And I'm like, oh wow, this is from practicing this play right now every day. So that's nice when art bleeds into life in that way. But yes, I do find the play deeply admirable in that they truly, in their debating with one another, truly try to find consensus. And when you have a different opinion, there's not an assumption that you're wrong or that you're dumb, you know? And that's a huge lesson I always grew up with. You can be right or you can have love in your life, which is deep.
That's very deep. I've actually started in my old age to be like, I don't want to be right. I actually love admitting when I'm wrong. It's hard.
Well, that too, that's like a whole other skill, yes, to admit when you're wrong. But I'm constantly trying to teach that to my children because the older one is always correcting the little one. And I'm like, you don't need to do that. Like, it wears away at the love if you're constantly, like, correcting someone needing to be right.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting, too, like, the listening leads to, hopefully, the decision-making in this show. And even looking at, you know, what you teach your children, what's your advice on decision-making? Because making decisions can be really hard.
It can be really hard. Again, why I find the play admirable, they, you know... spoiler alert, they are not able to in the end. And it's sad and it's painful and they all mourn the loss, right? But they really try for so long. I think longer than most people are willing to listen to one another in this particular political moment in history, certainly, you know. I mean, that's the painful thing, is that you won't always align in the end. And then you have to go from there.
Especially when you see the person as their decision or belief versus seeing them as a human, which is very hard. But, yeah.
And especially when, like, most of your morals and ethics overlap in the Venn diagram, but then there's only, like, one thing that you disagree on can be really confusing, you know?
And then you're like, I know that I can't be right about everything, but it's so hard to get past it.
Yes.
So I know exactly what you're saying. I would love to know if you have a tangible kindness tip, something that you would like people out there to do as we're talking about the world and sort of the mess it can be, to try and make it a little bit brighter on their own corner.
Oh, beautiful. Well, that's a huge one, and that's a lesson I actually learned from Landmark Forum. You can be right or you can have love in your life. I learned that as a kid. I took classes there when I was quite young. Or... I'm
putting that on a t-shirt. I'm going to tattoo that on my face.
It's amazing. And then during the pandemic, I took class at the School of Practical Philosophy, which is really incredible, and they give you tips every week to, like, try to improve your life slightly, right? And you can go into the theory rabbit holes if you'd like, but one of the first things they help you with is you do this experiment of always being honest and true, which is very hard to do. The honest part is really hard. Like, when you open that Christmas sweater, you can be like, thank you so much for thinking of me. It's not quite my style. I don't really want it. Let's pass it on to somebody who needs it, or maybe you can re-gift it. Like, that kind of radical honesty, while also being kind, is very hard. But excellent challenge really does make for a better day and a better life. Yeah.
I like the meeting the challenge. I mean, putting on a show is a challenge, and you come out the other side. You wouldn't have a show without challenge. So maybe meeting challenge where it is. Thank you so much. It was so good to see you, and you look wonderful.
Thank you.
Have fun tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Chelsea Yakura-Kurtz. I play Mako in the show, and I'm doubly excited because this is my Broadway and New York theater debut, but also because I think this is a really important play, and I just feel totally privileged to be able to be bringing it to life.
Yeah, so timely. I haven't seen it yet. I'm excited too. But congratulations. That's so thrilling. I have such ADD. I'm taking in your hair, like all the details in her hair, everybody. I see like a strawberry baby. It's so beautiful. I love this.
These are called kasashi. They're hair ornaments, and there's something that geiko wear, but how many and where you put them is kind of like denotes your status. So when they're in the front, like I have them, and there's a lot of them, which if you happen to see a picture of me, I look super extra.
I love it. It's great.
It denotes Maiko, which is like in training, a novice. So it felt appropriate for this being my first Broadway show.
Okay, I love the detail, the intention there. Well, I guess looking back to when you were even more of a novice in elementary school, what do you remember from that time? And what have your parents or people that are older than you that remember it said you were like?
Gosh, what do I remember of that time? I went to public school, so my experience in school was very different than the experiences of these students at Eureka Day. But I grew up in Cincinnati, in Ohio. My mom would probably say that even then she knew and I knew that I wanted to be a performer. I think back then I loved to sing, and so I was probably singing all the time, but very much a look at me, look at me, look at me.
Hit us with 16 bars. No, I'm just kidding. Don't do that. No, I would never make someone do that. That would be my nightmare.
There's a reason this isn't a Broadway musical.
You never know. One day. But when I was thinking about what this show relates to in my podcast, which is The Art of Kindness, I thought listening, actively listening, that's such a kind skill, such an important skill as a performer, of course, especially in a fast-paced comedy like this. What has this show taught you about listening overall?
Honestly, this show has been such a gift, especially in the particular moment that we are in as a country, because I think we have kind of lost the art of listening, and it's really, really easy to see somebody on the other side of an ideological debate and think that person is wrong, that there's a very us-them, black-white, very binary way of looking at the world, and I think this show really humanizes all the sides of this particular argument and shows that human beings are human beings, and even if we end up in a different ideological place, there are so many things influencing how people make decisions. So much trauma that we're all carrying around, so many anecdotes and personal experiences, the podcasts we listen to, the websites we visit, and so we're each kind of in our own ideological box almost. And I do think this play really shows that the kindest thing you can do, and maybe even the only way forward, if we're going to move forward together, is you have to listen. You have to learn how to listen, and you have to give people the benefit of the doubt that they're doing the best they can with the information that they have.
Yeah, I love that. That's such great advice. Rewind that, everybody. I think, listening, of course, will lead to hopefully a decision being made in the show, maybe not, say, but everybody's already made up their own decision, a decision for themselves. And I wonder for you, what's your advice on making decisions? Because it's hard, right? Pros and cons list person,
I am definitely a pros and cons list person. I am also a really avid researcher. And for that, I would, if I may, just make sure that if you are like me and you like to research, just check your sources. Yes. See who's publishing it, who's paying for it, where it's coming from.
Yeah, I sometimes like to look up, I don't know how I do this, but sometimes like other countries' news sources, just to get a little outside view. Just, that can be helpful. But I love that piece of advice. I'm going to let you go enjoy yourself, but before you leave us, I would love to know if you have a tangible kindness tip. So something you would like for listeners out there to do on their own corner just to try and make the world a little brighter these times.
Somebody told me this, and it has brightened my day in practicing it, and always brightens my day in receiving it. And that's never waste an opportunity to give a compliment. So, like, if you're passing a girl and you're thinking, God, she's got great hair, I just say, you have great hair, and I've never gotten a like, ew, go away reaction. And those moments of connections, I think, like that fuels me for the rest of my day.
Right. And it changes the energy and it comes back to you. So like if we're all doing that on our own part, I think it'll be maybe a happier vibe in the world. Yeah.
And I think if we're all operating with like that little bit of being seen and being celebrated, just like those little moments, like I think we would all be.
I do too. It can be hard in New York when you're sort of going in the rain, you know what I mean? But just taking that time, challenge yourself, make a little game. You're like, how many people can I compliment today? But thank you so much. Congratulations. It's so good to meet you. Have fun. Broadway debut. Dream come true. I will. Thank you.
I'm Thomas Middleditch. I play Eli in Eureka Day.
Are you so excited to open tonight? Tell us about the vibe.
I'm very excited. I'm tippy top. I'm high octane. I'm all shiny and chrome. I'm ready to rock.
Chim chim chiroo. Well, I have not seen the show yet. I'm very excited to see it. But I'm hoping I'm going to try and sneak in the back, honestly. Maybe we could swap outfits. They'll think I'm you. You'll be in costume. I'll be in the back, kind of just watching. I would love to know, what do you remember about elementary school?
What did people tell me? I was like, weird. Probably a bunch of slurs. Yeah,
I'm still weird, so.
Yeah, same. May the weird inherit the earth. No, I think I was like a good little good boy. Like I didn't like to step out of line. I like to follow the rules and then like say my name in burps. So
you could do it now. No, we won't. Yeah, my microphone might disintegrate. So when I was thinking about how this show sort of relates to the topic of our podcast, which is the art of kindness, I thought, well, listening, like active listening, that's a huge part of this story. It's a huge thing we need in the world. Very big for like performing, as you know. What has the show taught you about listening as a person?
Oh,
I know it's kind of a deeper question.
Oh, well, see, the trick to answering that question is like, this show is very much about people coming in with their best intentions to listen. And not only that, is all the verbiage and lexicon and glossary of terms in order to like pad every idea and concept and disagreement in the most like ethical, progressive way, right? And still, with all of that, come up against an immovable, irreconcilable difference of not only opinion but like way of life, and it's so intrinsic and core that it becomes like it becomes a source of great friction despite the best intentions. So I don't know, it's like, what has it taught me about listening is I'm not sure. You can listen to every single word that a person says and still disagree with them.
That's true. Maybe it's something that there's not just right and wrong, there's also I don't know.
I think like for me, I felt this way after this last election, and I feel this way sometimes when I discuss certain topics, I suppose, where I'm just like, I walk away being like, ugh, I don't know anymore. Yeah. Like, this person thinks such different things than me. And even if I had the paper, the scientific paper in front of me that I could like debunk all this stuff, it wouldn't change their mind. So you just go like, I don't know, I guess just go live in your reality, I'll live in mine. I don't know how to convince you.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a good step in the right direction, the I don't know, because it means you're sort of open and you're hearing the other person. So even if you still don't agree, you're sort of like, well, I'm not really sure now, and just take time to process that.
Sure. I mean, it's good and it's good and it's bad. Like,
there's a lot of that in this world.
Yeah, it's like I want every. There's a character in this show that I think, at least placed in a New York audience, has a take on a particular subject that would be opposing to like a liberal audience. But it's presented in such a human way that you fully understand where they're coming from.
That's what we need. I think we need more of that.
yes. However, if someone comes to me and comes with a heartfelt, true personal story of conviction as to now this is why they believe the earth is flat, I have to just sort of like pat them on their head and be like, okay, buddy, well, bye, we're going to go continue on with the real world. But if those people numbered in the tens, hundreds of millions, then we have a, I don't know, it becomes like, it's like it really tests your limits, the limits of your tolerance, which is kind of the point.
Yeah, you're like, you could put up those boundaries, but then if everyone's doing that, those people are going to maybe congregate together, and then it's a dangerous thing.
The whole point of the play, you will see that everyone's best intentions, they come in with such high hopes of like discussion that it will just the tension of that and the inability to reconcile is where it really erodes, which is the fun of it.
In like a similar regard, what's your advice on decision making? Because this show obviously deals with a big decision that has to be made.
My advice on decision?
Yeah, as a person, like you're a pros and cons list person. Like, has this show taught you anything about decision making? Because they've all made their individual ones, maybe.
I think they come to it. I mean, their knee-jerk reaction is to really try and fight this out, is to come to an agreement via consensus, which is their like thesis statement. So they really go through the motions. I think sometimes decisions are hard to make, and they're so hard and they're so complex, and that even when you think you've made the right one, afterwards you question them. That
me every day.
That is this symbol of a difficult decision, is when you finally come to the binary decision of yes, no, or whatever, that immediately after you're like, I don't know if that was good. That means it was a hard one.
You know, there's always going to be another decision around the corner, so if you don't make the right choice, you'll have to make a choice again soon.
What is right, what is wrong, and time marches on, so there's oftentimes you won't have the amount of reflection that you'd even want. That comes to you at 3 a.m.
Oh my gosh, everything comes to me at 3 a.m. I'm like, oh, I just wrote a movie in my head. Well, as I let you go enjoy yourself, I would love to know, since we are the Art of Kindness, we always ask for a tangible kindness tip. So if you have something you would like everybody out there to do on their own corner to try and build a kinder, brighter world, what would it be?
Oh. I'm not sure if this is my best answer, but this is an answer that's coming to me right now, is that you got to remember that everyone's flawed, that perfection is an illusion. Perfection doesn't exist in any form of life whatsoever, and it's a noble aspiration, but it's not a real thing. And I know, weird, right? It's in the air. And everyone else is flawed, you are flawed, and so like righteousness and condemnation and holier than thou and victory at all costs, these are things that like are born out of a sense of like, I'm right, you're wrong. And you can feel super right. Just remember that you're wrong about something too. Like we're all fallible, and like we're all like chimps with clothes on.
And to that, I'll say you're right. To that, thank you so much. I hope you have a great time tonight, and I can't wait to see the show. No, I loved that answer. No one said that before. And Amber said something similar. She's like, you can be right or you can be loved, I think is what she said. So I think it's an interesting answer.
But I think though that I was trying to get to your like how does one be kind, right? So like that's kind of what I was trying to get at. It's like if your goal is kindness, then you have to like kindness comes from true kindness comes from a place of empathy. And how do you gain empathy is to know that everyone is with their struggle, even everyone, you know. Whether what's presenting is like hard to digest or not, everyone has come with it.
And there's multiple kinds of empathy too. There's like cognitive empathy, there's just coming from your heart. So I geek out about that, but I think you're right, and I'm getting the eyes that you gotta go. But this was so great. Yeah, it was so nice to meet you.
Yeah.
I am Michael Cyril Creighton. I am so excited to be here because anytime I can see Jessica Hecht on stage or Bill Irwin, I'm over the moon. What a great rainy night to spend with them. And Amber Gray, the whole cast is incredible. I don't know anything about the play, So I'm really excited to be here.
Okay. Well, I'm not spoiling anything, but I can tell you the show has a lot to do with listening to each other, active listening, a bit of debating, trying to make a decision. Do you have any advice for listeners on how to listen? Like, I think listening is a lost skill. So what's your advice on listening?
Breathe while you're doing it. Just breathe while you're listening. Be open. Make eye contact, but not too much so it's not creepy. And make sure to go back and forth.
What did you say?
Go back and forth.
No, I'm just kidding.
I know.
That was a bad joke. He gave it to me. Okay, I know. I appreciate it. In the show, they also have to make a decision. So I would love to know, what's your advice on making decisions as someone who finds it very hard?
Oh gosh, I ask at least 10 people, and then I make my own decision based on nothing but gut. Yeah.
Well, they made a right decision in casting you on Only Murders in the Building to have a clunky transition. You're so good on the show. Was it?
Yeah.
Thank you. Can you tease? Do you know anything about the next season? Can you tease anything?
No, very little, but I do know. We're exploring another facet of New York City, another area, I guess you would say, not area location-wise, but area of New York City's lore.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. My podcast is called The Art of Kindness, so it focuses on people in the business who use their platform to give back. I would love to know if you have a tangible kindness tip, so something you would like for people out there to do on their own corner to try and make the world a little brighter.
Very simply smile at people, on the street, and I think ask people questions. You're really good at it, obviously, but like
a baby girl. I'm blacking out.
When you're having a conversation with someone, ask questions, get to know someone, be curious about another person's story, and I feel like people want to share who they are,
Okay, my final question for you is, have you read House on Cerulean Sea, the book?
No, but someone said that I should be.
You need to be the lead in it when they make a move. So tell your agent, I read it, I thought of you right away. Everyone I know has thought of you, get on this. I'm just going to tell you that.
We'll get on it.
Okay, thank you. Great to meet you.
Great. I'm Sam Morrison. I'm a comedian, and I'm so excited to see the show.
I'm excited for you to see it. The show involves a lot of active listening. There's a bit of a debate going on, trying to make a decision. I would love to know, what's your advice for listening? Do you have any? Yeah, as actively.
Yeah, make sure they're talking about you, and then it becomes super easy. Yeah.
I like that. Okay, and then last I'll ask you, my podcast is called The Art of Kindness. So it's all about talking with people who make the world a better place. And I would love to know if you have a tangible kindness tip, something you would like for people out there to do on their own corner to make the world better.
I'm going to be sincere for a second, but the thing that I always forget is that you do it for you. Like, there's an evolutionary reason why being nice makes you feel good. So if you're depressed or something, just try to get out of your depression by being nice to other people. For example, lie to me and tell me I sound hot right now. That would be great. I sound so hot. Can't you see me in bed with you right now? I think I'll try not to turn everybody on. It'll be tough though. Yeah. Okay, great. Anything else?
It's honestly too much for me right now.
I know. I'm so sorry.
No. Thank you. I hope you have fun. That was fun.